with you today. Okay? I want to have a little chat with you today about genocide. Oh, I know. Genocide. Sister, why you always coming with these heavy topics? I know, but okay. I'll change the word from genocide. We'll use something that's more casually referred to in our society as maybe racism. That's an easier one. I wish it were just racism, though, eh? I thought about it last week. I talked about it. I thought about it. And the last time I was on this mic, I remember thinking about the minority-isms and the heterosex-isms and homophobic-ism and the thin is in and fat is out-ism and the ageism and religionism and tribalism and, of course, that questioning, are you Canadian-ism? You know that head trip that's used to batter, violate, question my right to breathe this air. Prejudging stereotype-isms that are coupled with race/crime statistic-isms and requiring some kind of collective responsibility-ism for everybody who carries my shade-ism. When everything about it makes you want to scream, no way. No way. Not when you've been schooled in this patriarchal miseducational system. Yeah, you recognize the system. The one that's geared to down-press. That system that's full of isms that are geared to keep I and I in our place. And who says? A woman have a place, man have a place, child have a place, elder have a place. You know what I'm talking about by the ism? But what about that white-bread, blonde-haired, blue-eyed beautyism? That just is plastered everywhere. And it's not very subtle, but it's been designed to subtly submerge your self-worth. Interesting, eh? And I'm not just talking little black girls. I'm talking big, tall, broad-shouldered Budapest, Hungarian and Ukrainian girls. They ain't fitting the bill either. And suppose you're a short, dark, curly-haired, big-nosed Jewess princess. Then what? So you're saying unless we fit that bill, none of us would be considered worthy of the title of beauty. So I'm talking isms, right? Genocide? What about poverty-ism? Poverty and struggling to pay the rent-ism? Yeah, excuse me, no time to talk to your youth. Yes, discipline-ism. No time to waste on affectionism, because you don't want your youth getting too soft in this system, you know? So it's up to you to beat them and to shatter all residue of their self-value. And beat them some more and beat them out the door. And then the system, the police with their profile, waiting to beat them up some more. That's when they're ready, really prepared for the pimps and the pushers and the body, soul, mind, fuck, thieving abusers who try to disguise what I said before, the genocide, as nothing but a little racism. I wish people would hear me and see the kind of hell that we're living in, with the minorityism and the heterosexism and the homophobicism and the, thin is in and fat is out-ism and ageism and religionism and tribalism and, well, you know, basically I've kind of had it up to here with the ism and the schisms. We need to start checking for people as people. Persons. Yes. A little variety in the anatomy. But when it all came together, seed and sperm, and you made the choice to live, you made the choice. Oh, there are all kind of people going to argue this one now. They'll be, but it isn't really life until after the first or second or trimester is over, and sister, No. That's your belief system, and I'll go argue with your belief system. But I truly believe that life, just like when I put my little seed in water and it starts to germinate, and it starts to, even before it hit water, I could put a seed between two wet pieces of napkin, and in 2 or 3 days, the little green sprouts are come out from the one seed. Right? So that's telling me that it chose to live. So in much the same way, when sperm seed meet up that egg that was waiting, every 30 days or so it take its little journey, but it coming out looking to see if anybody's feeling live. How you feeling? You feeling live? And some connectedness goes on. That decision is made. Yes, I know we must go to zygote and embryo and all them stages before we could get to really fetus and then baby. I don't debate any of that process, but I believe that the choice of life is not something mommy makes when she opens she leg. It's not something daddy make when that thing go inside she. It's something that those two little, what you consider inanimate objects, they have electrical force of life, and they make choice. So now you make choice, and you're born. Why is it that some of us in our 40s, after we've already been on the planet all this time, it's then we start questioning whether or not we're glad to be alive? I find that really interesting. So what you mean was going on the rest of the time? You was just existing? No, don't get me wrong. Some people do, and they get through well. Existing can work for some folks, especially if you're in a place where other people are nurturing and other people are meeting your needs, other people are feeding you spiritually as well as on a carnal nature. They're taking care of whether or not you get up and walk and take you here and there and make your choices for you. Well, if you don't really want to think and use all of the parts that you've been given, no cognitive ability, well, then I guess existence can work for some of us. But I think even if you wake up late, it's really up to I to make we own moves, to make our own choices as, is this going to be an alive life or a stagnant existence? You see, because alive life is a constant choice making every day, a decision making. I'm going to go forward with the day. It's not the involuntary thing like inhaling, right? Because you see, the reason I'm talking about this is, how they say turtle get hurt and then turtle run back inside shell? I'm thinking about all of us who have been damaged units who still keeping on. Because I encounter damaged units who don't even recognize the damage, and they think they're quite complacently enjoying their life. But when you pay attention, they're existing, and they don't even know. And that's fine, because I think if you don't know, is a happier place than when you do know. Because those of us who know, once you know, it behooves you to make change. Yes. Whether it's early, whether it's late, make change. Now, who is there? Who is there to cheer I? Who is there who cares about I wonder. I'll tell you one thing. There is none whose plight compares. If I could only gain comfort. Because when I speak of these things, these intimate things, I know it is a state of open, wide, gaping oceans of pain that is within me. Who can heal that? Who can fix that? And so I think some of these people who have chosen this other path, that could be me. Except that I guess I like to pick at the scab until that sore is better. I want to see that the sore is better. And so that's how I have to live. I have to pick at these scars and tear it apart. And some people will pass me and laugh and say, see, she there where she worries. But that's fine. Who's to say? I wonder sometimes whether I'm living by vision. whether I'm living by my parents' vision. What did they envision when that sperm met that egg in my mother's body? And then I think, does it really matter? Because it's about an awake, live, cognizant adult. Yes, there are a lot of things I can lay at people's feet and a lot of things I could say, oh, if this hadn't happened. But can't we all? Seriously, can't we all? Today, I spoke at length with another carried beyond sister. Now, I use the word carried beyond as opposed to Caribbean because many of you may not recognize it, but those of us children who were born in the Caribbean are really carried beyond. We're not just the people whose great-grandparents traveled that middle passage from Africa to the Caribbean, is that once we meet one island in the Caribbean, they took us to another and another and another. And as I told you the last time we spoke, I have grandparent heritage from Jamaica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, and I born in Trinidad. If that isn't carried beyond, I don't know what. And then they stop there. They carry me beyond that to England and beyond that to Canada. So hence, when I say us carry beyond children, you will get from whence I come. About how our so-called family traditions got started. And I say family like that. Why? Because for me, family is not just about the people, it's about who you're familiar with. Familiar is what makes family. Because I grew in a place that wasn't just blood tie. Is anybody who come in to live there, you could become familiar with, and they become part of the extended family. So when I'm speaking of them, of this cousin or this carried beyond sister I'm talking about, I want you to understand it's not just blood that ties us all. It's that we are all familiar with the life experience. Excuse me. Well, one of my cousins asked me, how come them boys consider themselves to be hustlers? I say, I know. I just want to laugh at them. Because how come they think that their hustle is any different than the survival tactics that have been utilized by other marginalized peoples from since time immemorial? Yes, some of them have settled for some sort of twisted, adopted adaptation of the European settler mentality. And I say Europeans as opposed to Europeans. There's always something specific about the way I say a word. Pay attention. They have or are both graciously chased or are chasing the same elusive. You understand that dream. How to get more for less. Yes, that elusive. Not one of the people in my clan as yet has acknowledged, though, the cost of this dream. Okay, let's take, for instance, that I have some grown men and women in my clan who have the misguided perception that there's no need for any one of us to stay with a partner, lover, husband, wife for any longer than maybe 5 years. Unless you really love them. And then, what is love? That's it. What is love? The ones of them say, if you staying with he, it's because you too damaged to risk looking elsewhere. Oh, interesting thinking. How about if you're just too damaged to look at yourself, and that's why you're always seeking something new? Try looking inside yourself. And then, of course, we laughed about how there exists within my clan this faint facade of pride in the family title, a name I don't even use. But in as much as the progeny of all the women folk in our clan is always fated to carry the mother's surname. Now, that sounds like that's something we should be proud of, A lot of clans do that. Use the mother's surname as maybe the first name of the child, the next generation. But I've come to the conclusion that the reason that it was so in my clan had very, very different reasons. And what about the male crossover? That any woman that lays with one of the males in my clan, whether they churched or otherwise, if she come up with a child, then she must know that the surname for sure, and perhaps even 2 or 3 or 4 of the other middle names, must be of the father's ancestral lineage. Right. How about the fact that both of us, that's my cousin and I who having this conversation, had met enough adults who had their start out as babies whose mothers couldn't or wouldn't even say for sure which male seed assisted in this picnic coming into being, when it may in fact have been an internal sperm donation from a member of his or her own said clan. So it's better to be safe than to worry about a thing like who fatter you, or even who's going to fatter the ones that you are fated to carry. So what's in a name? Now, don't go feeling sorry for the women of my clan, you know. They would spurn your pity, love. These clan women are said to be strong and individualistic. Well, come on. To survive incest, one must indeed fight for an identity, even to claim and to cling to the safer identity of being a mad or crazy person. Which indeed you are. I mean, having lived with secrets and lies for generation upon generation that you have come to accept as a familial tradition. If that ain't fucking crazy, child, I don't know what is. My cousin only laughed, but she don't realize how serious this was for me. And as we got off the phone, I continued our thoughts with my pen. I started to write of the strong entrepreneurial spirit of the males of my clan, who seemed to pattern their lives after those of pirates, where everything to them is booty, commodity for trade, be it guns, drugs, women's, or, as God didn't forbid, their girl siblings' virginity. I hope whoever sold me first time was handsomely rewarded, because I know that the first perpetrator sure had me convinced that I was pretty worthless to anyone else but him, and thus preparing my spirit and my thoughts for the onslaught of life abuses that I would come to accept as simply predictable for me. I mean, really, the pains that one can get used to living with, and just think, oh, but that's just me. Even as my memories came, thankfully, when I was grown enough to take the blows of those memories. But unlike many of my female familial elders, I realize blame and shame I cannot own. Admittedly, when I could speak, I still kept mute. And admittedly, I still feel dis-ease each time I hear another whispered tale of how one of my younger female cousins is allegedly gone mad herself, or she out there on the road selling she body, and you know she dealing with woman now, and she using drugs, or worse yet, she has risked revealing the familial abuse. I live with the pain of how, when the only other female cousin from a generation before mine, who broke with the unspoken pact of silence, I don't know, it wasn't a good response. Why I wasn't shocked? Well, she, to the recollection of the tales I had heard about her within the clan, had followed the ritualistic dance of our family traditions, note for note. She'd had many male and female lovers. She'd had failed marriages. She was barren, and that didn't stop her from becoming a single mother. Plus, I heard she watched pornography, so she must have been bad from the get-go, right? That she even risked making her not-so-shocking revelation at all, and to share in that moment of naked vulnerability painful tales of almost identical experiences gushed forth with a swoop of release. The interesting thing about that dialogue, I remember now, I had been telling her what I was just getting memories of. And I said to her, I think all the men in that house must be really sick because the only person who's never touched me was my uncle, da-da-da-da. And she said, what? Hold up. Uncle who? And I tell her his name. She start to laugh. She said, child, I had 20 years on you, you know. I say, yeah. She said, who you think did me when I was 4? He must be just getting too old and tired, so he leave you. It so damaged me. Not so much so that she had gone through the same thing, you know. What damaged me was that the one man I thought was like the only good one in my clan, I find out it's just that by the time I get along, he kind of retire. Later on, that same cousin would refuse to engage in one-on-one dialogue with me on any topic at all. Fear? I know that the first time that we were having this honest talk, when this time came to be between us, that my mother instinctively called long distance. Now, I know it was about 2 or 3 or so in the morning, New York time. So now she's on the prairies. For her to call to interrupt us all the way from Winnipeg, that means she had to been up worrying that, and these were her words, too much talk would have us both blubbering about stupid things. Well, unless my mother is dealing with Obia, how could she know? Is only fear could make she stay up so late? Only fear could make she have to dial that telephone, even if all she could do was blurt out that one run-on sentence. Too much talk, blubbering about stupid things, blah, 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 blah. But that was the call, baby. That was the call that told me the score. And I came back from that trip and policed myself again to silence. And to stay true to my familial traditions of feeling sorry for everybody else but me. Because that's what we do, you know. I know now that that doesn't really work. That you got to talk. And hence, here I am, sitting in this booth. I must speak, not just for myself and to free myself of this burden, but for all my little cousins and all my sisters of my clan, including myself. You see, these myths about our family and what is a tradition, they've got to get debunked for all of our soul and spirit sanity. I have to ignore the well-known versions of the stories that I've heard again and again and accept the reality as my own mind is allowing me to see my own real stories, her stories. I'll tell you a story. This one has to do with my father's eldest fleshy sister. Daisy was her name. Now, I never know if that's the name on her birth paper, because I do remember one thing. She celebrated 2 birthdays till her passing over. I do know that. On account of the fact that in the plantations in the old days, the births were only recorded as baby 1, baby 2, baby 3, and then in gender specific. So she thought she was always baby girl number 1. Come to find out years later, when she applied for her visa to go to foreign, that she was really baby girl number 2. But baby girl number 1 never lived. We didn't know. Well, so I should tell you, though, that this aunt was really kind of considered the queen bee of the 2nd generation of my clan to have been born on the island of Trinidad. Moruga, the deep south of Trinidad, the cane country, right on the ocean coast. A beautiful place, I am told. She was born of the same parentage as the 14 others, but purported to be walking a much more heavenly road. Why? All based on her high complexion. And I came to realize later as a grown person that the internalized racism is another long-standing story in our history. Well, it's 42 years ago now since this whole tale took place, But the tale was recounted so often with laughter at family gatherings that I too started telling the tale. I came much later to recollect that's not how things went at all. They would always speak of how precocious/talkative I was as a youngling. That shouldn't surprise anybody. And of how I was always wanting to get involved in everything going on. That at all shouldn't surprise anybody. But it was getting close for this Daisy, my daddy's elder fleshy sister, to leave to go to England. And I did say, I going too. Well, the way I recall it was her saying, I taking Lois. None all it does mind she, so she coming with me. Besides, she keep me company on that trip. Now, I don't recall anyone ever asking my opinion, though I don't think I minded. I remember always feeling safe when Daisy was in my proximity, as she was the one who had saved my arm. I started to tell that story last week about my arm. One day I go tell that story, another story again. But I know I always felt a little safer whenever she washed clothes or shelled peas in the yard. The yard. Oh, you don't get that. Let me explain. When one grows in a tenement yard, you understand? It's a yard that's not just you, but God knows how many extended family. Many of who really just kind of figure that girl children or boy children are really there for practicing their sexual perversions. That's why you understand that the word home for me never has carried that sense of safety. So leaving it behind, it evoked emotions of relief rather than grieving any loss. And so was my innocent excitement at gaining my release papers at last. My savior, Daisy. Now, sometimes I think she was the onlyest adult who heard my silent cries. She decides it's time to leave and take along the wounded. And though there was never any true intercession towards truthful dialogue, her wise eyes carried dark weights that bade knowledge kept secret. I learned early that safety's facade is denial's home. You hear me? Safety's facade is denial's home. Trinidad, England, Trinidad again, Werburn, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, Manitoba, always dodging, denying, dying, denying and dodging. Dodging, denying the isolation's cold with a Hudson's Bay blanket of lies. More of those peanut butter lies spread with no jelly. Lies that crackled and crunched in corners or spread smoothly, thin in meager amongst the covering from the even more rapes. Thin, no covering from even more violations. Think about it. From the heat of the pot into the fires of rain and sleet, back into the heat again, and then on to even hotter fires of snow and ice, 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 stepping carefully and steady, if not sure, not to crack the thinnest shards of secrets that ran so deeply, never to thaw, even to her, Daisy's death. Now, what about my cousin? You're wondering about she. That's another story, and I will tell you about her at another time. Because there's more to this tale, eh? Know that. I have to come back and I have to tell you about my mother. I have to come back and I have to tell you about the cousin. But I wanted to talk about Daisy and silence and how the idea of keeping stump became something that I lived by. So much so that when you are keeping stump, you just forget what the story is you was keeping secret, You forget to the point where if anybody tell you such and such happened to you, you tell them they lie. 'Cause you can't remember that. And I didn't. That's the freaky thing, that it's been in the last couple of years that all the memories have come for me. And so the lessons, the schooling in silence by my clan has really, really gone home. It worked well. Now, was I the last to wake up? Were the visions the prophet saw for me false and painted shams? After careful deliberation, I've decided that it's time to speak. And I have no regrets. No. I know I'm probably the last of the clan to wake up. And like a gleaner, I'm following the pickers. But I believe that by Jah grace, I've arrived just in time. I should maybe just take my fill now and move on? I don't think so. I think what is the sad thing is that I have been less than prudent living another person's visions most of my life. But whether they're visions or vain hopes of the senseless, I realize now that an inexperienced spirit knows little and clutches to even the shadowy reflections, the false visions that have ruined and led many astray. So I feel no guilt, I feel no way. Yeah. I know that my enemies will watch me and make mouths, twist their mouth and laugh. Here we are. This is the day we've waited for. We've lived to see it. But I just cry out with my heart full at visions misplaced. You see, I have no fears now. I don't fear new visions. I have visions every day, and I will not cower from them. Because I know that the sun will be shining there, keeping me warm, that there is a God that will send me shelter from the cold wind, shelter from midday heat, shelter from verbal assaults, shelter from physical violation. You see, I've grown in this journey of this life. I had another birthday just the other day, and at 47, I could say that I have shared in the healing of souls. Not just my own, that every time I have talked my pain, I have been able to share in the healing of souls, experiencing daily that there is a creator and that the creators watch over those of us that fear. They watch over those of us that love, knowing that eventually our fear will be let go and taken up the space by love. So I trust that the people who put me here, my mother and my father, they put that sperm together, that spirit that makes me say I am going to live, not exist, will give me strong shield and firm support. Because I know that just that knowledge of a creator raises my spirit. It makes my eyes sparkle. It gives me health. It gives me blessings that when I encounter people today that I haven't seen since I was 14, and I think I have carried so much weight and so much pain, they say, "Sister, you had the same bunks. I recognize you. You had the same step like you did in General Wolf. I remember you walking down the hallways." And that's when I know, like, yo, girl, just keep on keeping on. All the pain, all the secrets, all of that, talk them, let them out, free yourself, decide that it's better to live than to exist. Because I know, I'm feeling it on a daily time. Just in time. I found you just in time. Before I came, my time was running low. I was lost. The losing dice were tossed. My bridges all were crossed. Nowhere to go. And now I'm here. And now I know just where I'm going. No more doubts nor fears. I found my way. 'cause love came just in time. Self-love came just in time to change my lonely life from existence. That lucky day. I'm feeling alive. Thank you, John Switzer. One love.